So, 8 Robot Masters are down, so now it's time to move on to Dr. Cossack. In his Citadel. I really like this map, I think it looks pretty cool. And I would say this might be one of my favorite fortresses in general. So, it's got a pretty cool lead up. We start, of course, outside the Citadel itself, in a snowfield. Try jumping through the snow, because if you walk, it's very slow. And, of course, what else could be Cossack's frontline defenses but Slinkies? Look at them go! They're so terrifying! My god, they're climbing down the stairs! How do they do that? Well, as somebody who is frightened by physics, I don't know how I managed to get through that section, but I managed it. This section sucks because that guy on the top will try to spin at you, and of course he does kind of follow your movement, so you need to bait him out a little bit by hanging out on the left side, and then trying to run in just before he gets to you on the right side. This section, on the other hand, a little bit annoying because of those guys that come out of the pit. As long as the first one doesn't ambush you and send you careening into the hole, you should be fine. Because once one of those things appear, you know to look for more than one. So, it can only really be a surprise once, unless you are really overly trusting of the design team. Or untrusting. I don't trust them enough to put one of these in every hole. So yeah, here's a section that maybe wants you to use the old rush coil, but I figure the balloon is a better first line of defense. And as for this section, I don't want to waste too much rush jet because that stuff is valuable, but, you know, does help me skip a tricky ladder platforming section, so I'm all for it. As always, the big jumpy robots at the end can be kind of difficult because you do have to waste a little bit of time climbing up that ladder, but I don't think these jumpy guys are too bad. So our first boss is Mothra. Mothra really isn't too difficult. It'll try to stab you sometimes, but eh. As long as you use the ring boomerang, it's not really got much. It'll try destroying the floor, but who cares? Even if I was just using the Mecha Buster, that probably wouldn't be too bad. It's no Slinky, that's for sure. Alright, it's time for Stage 2. So, what do we got in Stage 2? Oh yeah, this one. If I remember correctly, one of these paths is a dead end, right? Oh, nope, it's just... you don't have to deal with the ceiling dudes on that side. You just have to deal with the ladder crunchy dudes. And I do want that weapon energy because M-Tanks don't exist yet, and I really want to make sure I have all my Robot Master weapons, for obvious reasons. And of course, here's the required Rush Jet section, which is why you have a grinding spot right there, in case you need the weapon energy. So hopefully you don't, because you really shouldn't need to grind in a Mega Man game. But that section really isn't too bad. I mean, there are spikes down there, so if you mess up you do die, but still. This is just a timed block section, you know, they alternate which side the spikes are on, so I decided to skip that because, I mean, look at it, it's so slow. I don't want to time things, I just want to jump on balloons. Now, the question is, will past me backtrack possibly respawning enemies in order to get that energy? No. If it's backtracking, even past me couldn't be bothered. Besides, they're fortress stages. I'm not the biggest fan of weapon energy staying between the stages, but they do hand out a pretty decent amount of it, just to make sure you don't completely screw yourself over, so, you know, they make up for the fact that you'll be losing a lot of weapon energy by giving you a lot. It's kind of a shame that you don't really get to utilize your weapons in stage. It's only for trial and error against bosses. Thankfully, though, I can cut out the trial and error and just get to the part where I know the boss's weakness is Dust Crusher. But where's the boss, you might say? Over here! So yeah, basically, the boss is a room that will just swipe by you over and over again until it slows down enough to form into a big room. You get the chance to shoot it a few times, it'll try to shoot you, rinse and repeat. It's called Square Machine, but it's a room. I don't care if the Square Machine sprang to life, opened up one eager eye, focusing it on Mega Man. As 99 Dust Crushers go by. God, it's really not a tough boss. Like, the only reason it's living longer than Mothra is because it does this. Otherwise, it's really not difficult. Like, just be careful of when it shoots at the beginning, because it does fire very suddenly after forming, but other than that, you can get used to that, so it's really no big deal. And that's it, we got half the fortress done. Tune in next time for the other half of the fortress.